Israel in search of better economic opportunities in some ways, but also escaping from different forms of discrimination inside their own societies. But a huge difference between how South Africa deals with the question of foreigners and how Israel has been dealing with the question of foreigners is the immense support that violence against African people has received from mainstream politicians in Israel. In South Africa, none of our politicians, some of them, may be finding ways of, how can we curb these Zimbabweans? How can we deal with the problem of foreigners? But none of them have had the guts to express racism in public. Israeli politicians, on the other hand, have been in the forefront of campaigns to expel African asylum seekers. African refugees are routinely referred to as infiltrators. In fact, the law in Israel dealing with the refugee problem is called the Anti-Infiltration Bill. Foreigners, black foreigners, are accused by mainstream politicians, including the Prime Minister, of carrying diseases, of stealing and raping Israeli women. It was just last year when the Prime Minister said that the presence of African refugees in Israel is very grave and threatens the social fabric of our society, our national security, and our national identity. Late last year, Jewish Israelis gathered in southern Tel Aviv to protest the Africans in their neighborhood. And at this particular meeting, a senior member of the Israeli Knesset said that, spoke about Africans being rapists, and said that the time for talk is over, implying that the time for action has arrived, and through utterings like this, unleashing all sorts of mob violence against Africans in Israel. And in these demonstrations, members of the Israeli parliament routinely participate in these demonstrations against Africans. It was in 2009 already when the Interior Minister said that asylum seekers bring a profusion of diseases to the country. And in 2010, it was when the Prime Minister spoke about these foreigners being a threat to the Jewish and democratic character of Israel. And so foreigners are seen as a threat to the character of the country. And the character of the country is seen as Jewish, despite the fact that this is a land that is inhabited by many, many Christians and is inhabited by many, many Muslims. But it's very interesting that there was this initial space, especially when they discovered the Jewish falashas, there was this initial space created for Africans, for some of the Ethiopian Jews, until they became too many. And now they're also facing all sorts of discrimination inside the society. But one of the ministers, the Interior Minister, made the blunder of actually saying that no, he would use all tools to expel the foreigners, and he was very blunt about this, because Israel belongs to the white man. And so there's been a huge amount of violence against African asylum seekers, who the latest figures tell us are about 70,000. As I said, they were mainly from the Sudan and from Eritrea. The speeches by these politicians really whipped up many, many ordinary people who started kind of things that we have seen in South Africa also, looting of the small businesses of these foreigners and so on, breaking their windshields, vandalizing their shops, burning cars that belong to African men. This forcible repatriation of people, putting pressure on people, denying them jobs, creating